Hello, welcome to another of this random series where I take a car which I happen to be using as a rental car and talk about it. And today we have the Lancia Ypsilon, which is a sort of the last gasp of the Lancia brand. Certainly as of last year, I'm not sure, I need to look up what's happening today, but certainly it's the only car that you can buy if you want to have a Lancia name on it. And for such a storied car brand that was luxury and then it was sporting and then it didn't know what it was, little economic mini car is probably not the best thing that's going to keep the Lancia flag flying. But anyway, here we go. If you saw, I recently did a video about the Kia Picanto and I really liked it. I thought it was great. It was very zippy. It worked really well. And that was just maybe a couple of weeks ago that I rented that car. So I've sort of gone from that car to this car. I actually haven't driven another car since because I've been traveling around. And this car definitely felt not as good as the Kia Picanto. The Kia Picanto seemed to have a lot of get up and go. It had really nice steering. The handling was very good. The first thing I felt when I got in this car was it was a gutless wonder. It just didn't seem to have any get up and go at all. And the engine's pretty similar to the Kia Picanto. It's a fairly small engine. It says it's a hybrid. And looking online, it says that the only hybrid they have is a 1.2 litre. But when I picked up the car, it said it was a 1 litre, so I'm not quite sure what it is. But it's a hybrid. The hybrid system seems to add little to no benefit to the car at all. It's got a little gauge, which I'll show you later. It's got a little gauge that sort of shows the battery level, and when it's it's using the hybrid power, it seems to have no extra get up and go than it would have otherwise. So getting in the car, it's a 5-door car. It's done the whole Alfa Romeo trick of having these little hidden door things, so it is trying to look like a 3-door, but I think this car is just looking like a 5-door. It doesn't really make it look like a sexy coupe. And I should probably open the car. There we go. And one thing I certainly felt when I got in the car is it doesn't exactly sound like it has a lot of quality in it. It seems definitely built to cost, and I mean, that's not that surprising. This Lancia Ypsilon shares a platform with not this car, and certainly not that car, but this car here, the Fiat 500. So it's built on the same platform, first built in 2011, this version, the 3rd generation Ypsilon, and it's just been replaced in 2024 with a new version, but this is the old version which I have. And there's this, you see, that's the thing, I'm not a fan of this car. It just seems a bit of a bit of a gutless wonder, and it just doesn't really excite me that much. And yet, as you've probably heard, I've talked about this car before. I've talked about the Fiat 500 and I love it. I think it's great. And it's got a very similar engine. It's probably got the same engine. I'm sure it's got the same engine. And I think I can forgive its gutless ability, and also the doors probably sound just as cheap and tinny, but it just doesn't have the character. This car doesn't have the character of the 500. So the main controls, pretty good. It's got, I mean, it hasn't got the same level of equipment that the Kia Picanto has, but then, you know, they're designed to maybe a different level of feature level. It doesn't have cruise control, but it does have air conditioning. It has this interesting center instrument cluster, and I presume that's so you could use it as a left-hand or a right-hand drive car, although I'm not sure Lancia have actually ever done that. But as you can see, it's got speedo. It's also rather optimistically got a rev counter. When I was growing up, certainly rev counters were only on cars that were very sporty. And yeah, there's really is no point of having a rev counter on this car. And let's just turn it on so you can see maybe a few more things that are going on. So it has the fuel gauge, which obviously makes sense, and on the right used to have something called a voltmeter, but nowadays instead of that we have a charge meter for the hybrid, and that's actually kind of fun. I enjoy watching that go up and down depend on how much hybrid charge I've got, and it actually shows me that exactly how the thing charges. So it has to do some sort of gear braking going downhill to actually charge. If I just put it into neutral and then go down, it doesn't charge it at all. So it doesn't seem to be based on the brakes. It seems to be based on the actual gear braking down. And it's also got the ubiquitous CarPlay, Android Auto, basic key system.
Che gli arrivano i messaggini.
Quelli di casa, quelli, certo, che ancora arrivano.
Which we have problems trying to turn off. I haven't used the radio, and that was very confusing. I've been using Apple CarPlay, which mostly works great for me. The one problem I'm having with Apple CarPlay is whenever I use it, it's set to night mode. So even during the day, you've got the map, and the map is a dark map because it thinks it's nighttime, so it's put on the nighttime setting. And there is a way of changing that. In settings in Apple CarPlay, you can go in and change it from always dark to automatic. There's the only two options. And I've tried both of those settings and it always stays in night mode. And I thought, okay, well, maybe there's something that I've set up in my phone that's wrong, but it happens both on my phone and also Mrs. Big Car's phone, who also has an iPhone. So for some reason, maybe it's something to do with this car, it's not working. So we always have night mode, and it's very difficult to see the screen. This is also quite a reflective screen. You can't see it right now, but when the sun's hitting it, you can't see it very clearly. So there are times when I can't really see what's going on with the screen. So that's not great. So again, built to a cost. You get what you pay for. You know, you pay your money and you take your choice. Controls for HVAC, again, those are pretty standard, pretty normal things. Those work fine. Gets perfectly hot, perfectly cold. No problems with that. In the back, again, it's a small Super Mini, and it's got adequate space for 3 kids in the back. So again, if you want to have space for 2 adults and 3 kids, then you'll be doing just fine. As far as the boot, again, it's got a pretty big boot. Worked well. We've got one ginormous suitcase, one smaller suitcase, a sort of a carry-on one, and a few little backpacks, and they'll all go in here just about. We have to sort of put the seats forward a bit and then get it down and then put it in. You know, there's a bit of cajoling, but it works. So yeah, it's perfectly adequate. It works well for us. Again, feels a little tinny when you do that, and I didn't really feel that with the Kia. I didn't feel that it felt cheap. Also, the steering on this car, it doesn't feel as connected and together as it does on the Kia. It's fine, it's perfectly adequate, it works perfectly well, but I don't feel as engaged with this car. And again, in case you're interested, here is an engine, and I think that my understanding there's either a 2-cylinder or a 3-cylinder engine that it uses. It's amazing how small these engines are now, and how much power you get from such a small engine. And certainly we're getting great fuel mileage from this car, both with the hybrid and the small engine. We've gone hundreds and hundreds of kilometers, and it's less than half full, but you know, it's been doing really good, and no problems, no complaints at all as far as the fuel economy. And I think that's the thing with modern cars, they're just so economical on fuel. Another thing I'll have to talk about is the Italian driving, which is interesting. It's very similar to Indian driving, and I have driven in Italy before. It was many years ago, and certainly a lot of things are just advisory. So stop signs, yeah, people just tend to ignore stop signs. Speed limit signs, yeah, people just tend to ignore those as well. So, of course, the problem is you're trundling along at the speed limit, and then everyone's sort of, trying to get past you because everyone's going way faster than you are. So it's a very interesting bit of driving to do, particularly in cities. But we're enjoying it a lot. It's an interesting experience. The Lancia Ypsilon also shares a platform not just with the Fiat 500, but also the Fiat Panda. And wherever I've been in Italy, all I've been seeing are Fiat Pandas. They're everywhere, and for good reason. They're a very practical car. They're 4 doors. It's basically as massive a box as you can get, that you can put as many people and as much stuff as you can in there. And again, built to a cost, but between the Fiat 500, which is very cute and very cool, and the Fiat Panda, which is very practical and works very well, the Lancia Ypsilon, it just falls between the two of them. It's got a different badge, but so what? It's got a different shape, and I suppose if you like that shape, wonderful. That's great. It's great for you. But to me, it's not a remarkable shape for a car. And it just doesn't give me the character of the Fiat 500. It doesn't give me the practicality of the Fiat Panda. It doesn't have the same amount of space just because it curves around at the back. So it's an adequate car. It works fine, but not a car I would be buying.
Yeah, there's definitely something underneath the car rapidly. Go ahead and show what it is.